Hey, welcome to Two Doctors Homestead. My name's Daniel, and today we're going to talk about emergency communications, alternative communications, things like handheld radios, look at the differences between FRS, CB, GMRS, and ham radios, talk about some of the licensing requirements, what it takes to get your licenses for the technologies that require licenses, and then I'm going to go ahead and jump in and apply for a GMRS license, and we can walk through that process together. So let's jump into it. Emergency and alternative communications. Had a lot of information, so I did put together some slides. So primary options, you have FRS, which is Family Radio Services, your basic walkie-talkies. CB radio, which is Citizens Band. Think truckers. I think it was a very popular technology among truckers, and I actually had some friends that did CBs in their cars back in the day, thinking 90s, and they drive around, talk to people on the CB radio. GMRS, General Mobile Radio Service. It seems to be a little more popular now than things like CB. Ham radio, hobby amateur radio. And then there are some newer technologies, IP radios, WLAN, LTE, and satellite. We're not going to dig into the new tech too much. As far as an emergency communications option, I'd be worried about being dependent on things like the internet or satellites, SHTF and whatnot. Outside of that, they're probably great technologies. They're just outside of the prepping realm of what I'm looking for here. So range is important, right? You want to talk to people on your little walkie-talkie. It said this little FRS radio. When we talk about range, you can see things like, hey, it goes between 1 mile and 50 miles, right? And what affects range? One is line of sight, right? Curve of the earth, obstacles. When you're talking on the radio, the signal's got to go from this antenna to their antenna, right? So there's a natural limitation in the radio signals, and we'll talk about some of the different signals can be blocked, right? Can be blocked by the curve of the earth. You're standing here, they're standing there. You may not have that line of sight or obstacles in the way. Watts, how much power the radio is putting out is certainly important. You might go from half a watt to 1500 watts, depending on the equipment. Obviously, that's a huge range of wattage, but the more power you put out in general, the further your signal can go. Antenna length type, right? So this would be considered a stubby antenna. You see the whip antennas on some of the radios. You get about 30% more signal range on a whip antenna versus a fixed antenna. If you think about the CB radio, they're going to have that giant antenna on the outside of the truck or the cars, all the way up to ham radios, or you think about your radio station, they have gigantic antennas. So antenna length plays a factor in range, as does frequency. And there's two main frequencies you're going to see, and I know there's a bunch out there, but we're going to focus on UHF and VHF. UHF is it's smaller. It's a smaller wavelength, right? So you're looking at it's might be hard to visualize, but imagine that the signal's coming out of the antenna, right? And a UH signal is going to be a smaller band coming out of the antenna. It's better indoors. It is going to use battery faster. When I say better indoors, you're more likely to get further range inside, right? If you're in a house, if you're in a building, UHF generally, and all of this varies dramatically, is going to do better indoors. If you're in a large building trying to talk to people on different floors, talk through doorways, those kind of things. VHF, that has a larger wavelength, so it's going to travel better outdoors. The UHF, ultra high frequency, uses your battery faster, right? And the VHF is going to be more battery life. And I know that's ultra simplified. A lot of the radios have the ability to talk on different channels, and there might be UHF channels and VHF channels, so you're really going to have to test out and see which channel works better for you, just to talk to the other person, right? And it's different wavelengths, different frequencies. They're going to travel differently through obstacles and whatnot. And then, of course, repeaters, big part of range. So what a repeater is, rather than talking from this radio to the other radio, you're actually talking from this radio to a repeater that's on a hill or on a tower. If I have line of sight to that repeater, and then the person I'm talking to might be on the other side of the hill, but also has line of sight to the repeater, talking through the repeater to them. And I think we're going to get a little bit into repeaters later. not too much. So range and power. So this is kind of high level numbers, right? Ham radio, maximum power is 1500 watts. And once again, that really depends on your equipment. Maximum range on ham is worldwide, right? There's networks of repeaters. You can talk to the space station. If you want to have that, global long range communication, certainly ham is the way to go, right? The next step down is the GMRS. Maximum power there is 50 watts, and you can get little GMRS base stations. 50 watts is not going to be a portable unit per se, not like a handheld unit, but it's something you could maybe put in your car or your Jeep. Maximum range 30 miles. Once again, we talked about range before. There's a lot of factors on that, right? Don't expect just to get a handheld unit and be like, hey, I didn't get my 30 miles. You might not, right? There's a lot of conditions, terrain, line of sight. CB radios, maximum power 4 watts. Once again, think truckers and that kind of thing. Maximum range 3 to 20 miles. And then FRS, family radio services, these little guys here, maximum power half a watt to 2 watts. This might not even be half a watt, right? And it's half a mile, 2 miles, once again, depending on a lot of factors. So when we talk about range, really answers it depends. So here's FRS, Advantage FRS, no license and low cost. So you can get the set I shown on the screen there for $39 on Amazon. And you don't have to have a license. Anyone can use them. The disadvantage, of course, is they're going to be low power and low range. CB, talked a little bit about CB. They do have handheld units. Once again, no license. The units I'm showing on the screen were about $130. Disadvantage, power and range, right? Maximum power 4 watts. The range 3 miles to 20 miles is pretty good. Certainly a lot better than these little guys, but not as good as some of the other technologies. Next one, GMRS, advantages, range, right? GMRS, you could get up to 30 miles. Now they do have repeater options for GMRS. They may not be free, but if there's repeaters in your area, the GMRS radios have the ability to use that repeater, which once again, that can improve your range, talk to people outside of that idea of a line of sight. And they are text and data capable. There are GMRS capabilities to send things like text messages over GMRS. So prices are based on what I'm showing on the screen. You had a micro mobile, which is a little kind of a handset vehicle mount, 12 volt, those 200 to 300. And then those two Midland radios I'm showing were $79. Disadvantage is license required. Now, the license you can get for GMRS, you can apply on their website, and it covers your entire family, and it's $35. And we're actually going to, once I'm done walking through this, apply for the license and show you guys the process. Last one here is ham radio. Advantages, once again, range, right? Ham radios can go all over the world, depending on your equipment and the signal and whatnot. There's ham radio repeaters available. They are text and data capable. So the units I'm showing on the screen, it was $319 for the base station, $69 for the handset. Now the ham radio does require a license for each operator, unlike GMRS, which is a license for your whole family, and you do have to take a test. So you should study, right? You study, you take the test. So the barrier for entry there is if you have a group and you want to talk on ham, you got to convince everybody, right, to take the time to take the test. So advantages, disadvantages, we kind of already went over this a little bit. So GMRS license. So I'm going to go ahead and apply for the GMRS license now. I have been studying for the test for the ham radio, but GMRS seems a little bit easier, especially if you have a group, to get everybody to go out and get the license. It's going to be $35, and you apply on the website, and I've got the link to the website there. And I'm going to go ahead and put the link to the website in the description. Follow the link, and it takes you to this page, right? Federal Communications Commission's Universal Licensing System. So what you want to click on is New User Registration if you don't have an account. Actually got some of the links up here already. So as a first-time user, we're going to go ahead and register. So for the registration, you got to fill out this form, right? And then create account. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is fill out the form, and then we'll cut, because you don't need to see my information, and then we'll see what happens when we click the next button. All right, so we created the new account, and it sent me a confirmation mail. So we check out the confirmation mail, and we'll have to respond to that. All right, once you've verified your email address, you have to log into the website, and this is where we're going to be able to pay the $35 fee and get our license. You'll be able to print out the license directly from the website. So it's sort of a three-part process. You create your username, you pay your fee, and you print out your license. Okay. So user home, register and receive a new FRN. We're an individual, and we're inside the United States. So we're going to do a CORS FRN registration. And then we fill out the form and hit submit. So we registered a new FRN, and it gave me the number. So I went ahead and took a note of that. All right, so now that we have our account, we're going to file online, apply for a new license, renew, modify, file online. So now we log in with the FCC registration number that we got on the previous screen. Now that we're logged in, we want to apply for a new license. Pick the drop down, and at the end, GMRS, General Mobile Radio. No special temporary authority, non-exempt. All right, once we're in, we'll fill this out, and then we'll come back. Due and pay fees. Pay application fees. View and make payments. Tells me I owe $35. Make a payment. All right, so now that we've gone through the application process, so once again, we created a username. We logged in with the username, applied for the license, logged in to pay the fees. From what I'm seeing, within 24 to 48 hours, they should email the license. So see if I can splice this all together, see what it looks like. But so now that we got the GMRS license, should be able to log in the next 24 48 hours. We'll check on it in a couple days, download the license, and then me and my family will be able to legally use the GMRS radios, and we should get a radio call sign to use with that. So highly recommend. Keep it legal all the way. If you're going to do ham, once again, there are books to help you study for the ham radio tests, and there are multiple tests you can take. Every operator has to have a license, which is a barrier for entry there compared to, a few minutes to get a license online. So once we get the license, get some equipment, I might make some videos just testing out practical range, right? And that obviously is going to depend on a lot of factors, but we'll test out some of the different units and test out some of the ranges. So thank you for watching, sticking around to the end, and we appreciate you.